Here's a look at our EcoQuest Challenge species for the month of November 2020. This is common buckthorn, which was an invasive plant that was brought here from Eurasia in around the 1880s and has really been disrupting soil chemistry and outcompeting a lot of our native shrubs and even small trees in our region. There's a couple of reasons why we're focusing in on it today. Notice the really dark green color that is remaining on this. So buckthorn leaves out early in the spring and really holds on to its leaves for quite a while, which gives it another big competitive advantage. Just for a frame of reference here, there's a huge oak tree right next to this buckthorn that I'm filming at this forest edge here. Yeah, you can see some oriental bittersweet berries there, but really the oaks have entirely lost their leaves. You know, a lot of trees in our region are bare at this point, yet you still got this dark green color of buckthorn. So that's one of the reasons why we're featuring it this month. So if we take a look at those leaves, that is a great way to distinguish what they, how to tell it apart from some other lookalikes. So the first thing I want to note about buckthorn leaves, is that the outside margins of buckthorn, you see how they're nice and two, so they certainly have like a serrated edge to them. Also, those veins that we're seeing here in this leaf, let's take a closer look at those. There's about 3 to 5 usually, paired veins that are arcing towards the tip of buckthorn leaves. So that is one distinguishing feature, is these toothed leaves, and also the 3 to 5 pairs of primary veins that are arcing towards the middle. The other big thing that to notice about buckthorn, if you take a look at the twig of buckthorn, let's take a closer look at that. You see this terminal bud that I am holding in my hand here? Well, there is a big thorn projection that's coming out of the edge. So they're not found on all of the branches, but that's definitely one thing to be on the lookout for, are these like little thorny projections that you'll find at the edge of buckthorn twigs, right between the terminal buds that extend out. So the part where it's still growing. The reason why it's called buckthorn, I learned, interestingly, is that it kind of looks like deer tracks. See the buds there? Almost look like deer tracks you might see in the snow or mud at this time of year. So that's just another kind of cool feature about buckthorn. But again, it's outcompeting a lot of our natives, looking for that greenish color. Another interesting feature about buckthorn is that it starts out as a shrub, so multi-stemmed, but you can see that this one that I'm looking at here can actually grow to be quite tall. See all that green in the background? This is about I'd say about I don't know, like 16 foot tall, almost growing like a tree at this point. So it can be characterized as a tree with one primary trunk, but when it's younger, you'll start to see that it's got multiple trunks. Let's zoom in on what that trunk looks like. You can see these leaves like even more clearly here. Remember those 3 pairs, very obvious veins that are curving towards the tip of this, tooth margins. But here's a look at like the bark of this. So the younger buckthorn will be a little more grayer, but they will have these raised lenticels, versus as it gets older, it becomes even bumpier, right? And almost like a kind of a peeling sort of bark to it, but definitely more like bumpy, more aged look to it than some of the younger saplings that you might see of buckthorn that's growing. So these are some of the key features. In a second, I will show you what the berries look like, which are very persistent throughout the winter, and just another feature that you could be looking for in addition to the ones that we just covered. Before we move on to the berries of buckthorn, I did want to show you some of the differences, or what a younger version of buckthorn looks like. So as we zoom into this here, you'll see that there are these raised bumps or lenticels that are found on a younger buckthorn, but it's not quite, doesn't have that aged, like really rough appearance of an older common buckthorn that we saw previous in this video. There's one other feature about buckthorn that is actually makes it really obvious in the field, and something to definitely be looking for. So let's take a look at this branch here. You'll notice that these leaves here, you see how they're coming off of each other, like very, very close to oppositely on this branch, but they're just slightly offset, We call that sub-opposite, or just not quite opposite of one another, but very, very close. And that is actually a really unique ID feature and something that I know that I am on the lookout for when I'm looking for buckthorn. So tooth margins, and this almost opposite or nearly opposite appearance to how that they are arranged. And you can really see that spike or that thorn coming out there too. So definitely be on the lookout for all of these features, whether young or old common buckthorn in our areas, natural areas. Here's a look at the black bunched berries of common buckthorn. A lot of bees for you there. You can see if we come in a little bit closer to what these berries look like. They're rounded, black, a little bit of a dimple on the bottom. You can see the berry stains on my fingers there. Another way we know that we are looking at buckthorn is if we look at the end, you see that thorn, like that projection at the end, that kind of like spear in between the terminal buds. So that's another thing we're looking for. Here's another look at another one that's right next to it, and that's another hallmark of common buckthorn. That's sort of like those thorny projections at the ends of each of the twigs or the branches, and you may find that. And just another look at, as I zoom away here, at the bunched black berries and what it might look like from a roadside. Almost looks a little bit like grapes, but if you look closer, they are the round black berries of common buckthorn. Zooming in one last time just to get one final look.